right.
Okay, it says join now. It says we're live. Do you want to check Facebook Live? Hey, everybody.
I'm
I'm
checking.
Mike. I'm hanging out with Teagan.
No.
Click here anytime to view the post on Facebook. Well, that's interesting.
Yep.
So we're using a tool called Ecamm Live. We've used this before to be able to broadcast to the Facebook group. We just want to make
Mhm.
sure that it is doing that again. If you guys could let us know what we're talking about today is the Not a Conference event slash community thingy. It's very weird, so we know that there's some things to explain. So we will explain some things. So we're going to have a pretty quick breakdown, like a large scale overview of what this thing is, and then we're going to get into some details, and then we'll be able to answer any questions. You can post comments in the comments below, and it will show up in my world. So feel free to say hi, let us know things are working, tell us how you're doing, and we'll make sure to incorporate you in the conversation. So for those of you who do not know her yet, this is Teagan. Hi, Teagan.
Hello.
Teagan is going to be the community. What was the term that we decided upon? Community manager.
Something like that.
Is that
I don't
that?
know.
That sounds cool.
Something,
So
yeah.
basically, Teagan will be there to be the more emotionally available person than me. That's and time available person than me. That's largely what it's about. So Teagan, you are going to run this conversation. We've got some points to get through, but introduce yourself real quick, and then we'll talk through a bit about what this event is. This not a conference is.
This not a conference. Okay, so I'm Teagan. I what do you want to know about me? I don't know. I live in Las Vegas, Nevada. I am a small business owner. Just finished my MBA, like super excited about that. I'm obsessed with all things marketing and small business and helping business owners get ahead in their business is part of the reason why I got my MBA.
Yeah, and
Connected
your
with Mike.
capstone, if I remember, the MBA was generally about applying corporate strategy because there's a lot of research into corporate strategy because there's a lot of money behind it, but applying that to small
Yeah.
businesses. So sort of bringing the big truths down to us basically.
Well, yeah. Yeah. I the whole reason why I got into the MBA program was I kind of feel like there's an unfair advantage with corporate businesses. Like they have all these unlimited and untapped resources at their hands. They have these big marketing teams, they have all these things, but they also have access to these strategies and ideas that small businesses don't. And it's hard because small businesses are trying to get ahead or to that level, but they don't have all the tools to get there. So, in taking the MBA program, I learned a lot about strategy, incorporating those types of things, how to build your business correctly so that you can have those things. And they taught us all the things that corporate world does. So my whole idea with my capstone was how to take what I learned in my MBA for corporate and to take it and put it into small business
Right.
ideas and how to apply it to a small business
Which
because
obviously makes you
we should be able to do it.
yeah, makes you a good resource for this group since we target solo and small firm attorneys.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that. Real brief, guys. I want to give a quick overview of what we're doing so that if you can only be here for a few minutes and not watch the whole conversation, that's fine. So, we very briefly, for anybody in this group, knows that we've done the Lawyer Forward live event for several years. And then, of course, COVID hit. So, this last year, we sort of quickly threw together some content to try to help you guys innovate in your practices. And this year, we after I had some debate about whether we would do anything, because there are certain advantages to being live and in person that you can't get online. Been trying to think about what are the advantages to being online and how do we optimize for those advantages. So we'll get more into what that is as we go on, but very broadly, the quick message is we're doing something called the NADA conference. And it's a stupid name to try to underline the idea that we're not trying to be the legal conference that we moved online. There's a bunch of those. I hate that crap. Like, I just don't understand it as an exercise. Take advantage of the advantages of being online. That's sort of a core driver of the way we tried to think about this. So the way we're thinking about this is broadly three things in one. One is a community, so we'll talk about where that community is set up, but it's a private community with those of us who are in the group supporting each other and talking to each other. There's a community aspect. There is a guided coaching aspect, and this is really the core of this particular effort, of this particular product, is we are in a way that we can't do live because we're in and then we're out. We're in for a few days and then we're out. That was sort of the central frustration for me, was that we kept doing that every year. We would show up, we would get all jazzed, and then we would go our separate ways. So the guided coaching is a very structured way to say, we're going to be together for this quarter, for this 13 weeks. And we're going to have a structured plan for what you want to accomplish. We'll guide you through exactly how to do it. We'll go do something big, right? So that's that second piece, is the guided coaching. And then the third piece is to sort of celebrate what we've done historically. We'll have a kickoff event. Parts of it will look like the live event did, the live Lawyer Forward event did, and parts of it will look very different, because really the key, like I said, structural piece is that guided coaching. So the kickoff event is largely for the purpose of getting you into taking that juice that you get when you go to live events, right? We all do it. We'll show up to these live events. We get this long list of things that we're supposed to do, and we feel really jazzed and we're going to do it. We do want to have that emotion at the kickoff event, but then we actually want to do something with it. So that's the large structure. So if you guys can't be here for any of the rest of that, just of this conversation, go to lawyerforward.com/NADA-conference and get the details there, see if it's something you're into. But that's the brief summary. Did I get that? Does that sound right?
Yeah, that's pretty on par and accurate.
Cool.
I'd
All
agree.
right. Well, now I think we'll dig into it, Teagan, and you're going to guide this conversation. And then if any of you guys have questions or comments or things to share of other experiences that you've had, even conferences that you've liked, feel free to share that. We're also going to put the recording of this into the community in Mighty Networks, so you'll be able to access this into the future. But if you have questions that you want to share later, go ahead. But we'll see what we can cover in the time we have. So, Teagan, it's all you.
Okay, so the first thing that we wanted to touch on was the community, because let's be honest, that's like part of the best part of it. Like Mike had mentioned, that we're going to host the community on Mighty Networks, so that you can have access to it not only online, but you can take it with you on your phone, on your tablet, wherever you want to go, and you can access it and treat it much like a social media tool, right? So it acts like Facebook or Instagram, but without Mike's mom's politics.
I don't have to filter
So
through that to talk to you guys. Yeah, let's
that's right.
while we're talking about, let's if we can, let's show it to them real quick.
Yeah, let's do it.
So we're using a tool called Mighty Networks. So if you go to mightynetworks.com and then you just search Lawyer Forward, it'll lead you to that. So if you are
I'll make it
signed up,
even easier. I was gonna
okay.
say I'll make it even easier for you. I did a little surprise for you. If you go to community.lawyerforward.com, it'll take you right to it.
Stop it.
I
Community dot lawyer forward. Look at that.
Thanks.
Booyah. All right, and if you're signed up, cool. So if you're signed up, it looks like this. It looks, Mighty Networks as a tool was very much designed around Facebook groups. So it looks like Facebook groups. But it's also got a learning management system. So it's got a place where you can put in courses and content. And so that's basically how we're using it. It will feel very familiar, but I do want to step people out of Facebook. What we found with this Facebook group and with just groups in general is it's really hard to get people. The advantage of it is you're already in there, but the disadvantage of it is that you're already in there, right? Like you're not in there to learn. You're not in there to improve your practice. That's not what you're there for. And conflating those two things can be cool, but it also can really jack you up. So we want this separate place, but also wanted it to look familiar. So this is Mighty Networks. And if you see, and Teagan, you can guide us through this as much as you want, but over on the left, you can see it again. It looks like a Facebook group. You can see that there's an event right now. It shows events and it shows that we're live because we're having this conversation. So it'll show things like that, like you can see right here. Next week, a week from today, we're going to be breaking down the 12-week year and what this sort of guided coaching looks like. That we'll talk about a little bit. But this is where it lives. You can share posts on it. It's got a really cool structure. For me, and tell me if this resonates for you, I don't use this version. I don't use the desktop. I use it on my phone, and the phone experience is awesome. I use it as an app. I think it was originally designed as as an app, and the app experience for me is awesome.
Yeah, so I kind of flip flop back and forth just because building it, I build it mostly on desktop because it's easier to build it there. But yeah, it's optimized for both.
Oh my gosh, this
Mobile
is
experience
hilarious.
is
Mike talks to
bomb.
people. That's a funny image. I appreciate that you did that. That's funny. I like that.
Well, I had to get creative because we were talking about the different, and I mean, like we can kind of segue into that because that's part of the community.
Yeah.
Is we're going to host these different types of conversations similar to like this every week. So some of the things that we're going to do is every Friday, you and I are going to jump on and we're going to talk about something, whether it's like next week we're breaking down what the 12-week year is and how it works and how we plan on using that inside of the community and the guided coaching. This week, obviously, it's what the heck is this thing? Um, so that section is called Mike and Teagan. Mike and Teagan talk about stuff like because
So
it's going
every
to change every
Friday,
week.
yeah, every Friday
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be a substantive training. We'll have an actual training. There's an outcome. It's not just a. I mean, there will be chatting between Tegan and Mike because there always is. But it's a
Yes.
substantive training. So like you said, next week we're going to go over the 12-week year structure. It's a book. It's a program, and it's part of what's driving our quarterly structure for the guided coaching. So we're going to talk
Right.
about that and OKRs, which is a similar approach that's taken from technology from that world. So
Right.
every Friday we'll have a substantive training from me or from Tegan about something that you're dealing with in your practice, so that there's a deliverable. Yeah. So that's Tegan and Mike. What did you say? Talk about
Yep.
stuff.
Tegan and Mike talk about stuff. And then every Wednesday, this segues into interviews. Mike is going to interview an expert. We're going to rotate through different subjects. We're going to go through different topics, just kind of based on things that you're interested in learning about. Maybe it'll be something that falls into what we're covering over that 12-week sprint during that quarter. That's called Mike Talks to People because it's going to be something different every time.
Mm.
But those interviews will happen every Wednesday inside of the community, which is really awesome. And we're going to be able to talk to a lot of cool people. And then the other segment that we have is called Tegan Teaches Things. So I'm going to come in once a week, probably on Mondays, sit down, teach you something business related, maybe ask some, or maybe do a Q&A session, let you kind of work through some of the things that are happening inside of your 12-week sprint.
Yeah, and
Um,
you're just for subject, my
yeah,
training, like when I'm doing a training, just you guys know me, it will mostly be built around things like business model redesign, things, stuff from the book. So there'll be stuff in there about staffing, about sourcing, about financial models, different ways that you can make money. Different way, content will be part of it because that's what the other side of my business is. I have a content agency for legal tech companies, and so I'm reading and writing about all that stuff all the time. So that will be there on Fridays for you, given your background and what you were talking about with the MBA. Just give me an idea. What kind of trainings might you, if Tegan's teaching stuff, what's Tegan teaching?
yeah. So the thing that I really tend to like gravitate toward is marketing and learning a lot about like your ideal client, how to take your business and getting it more exposure because let's be honest, it's hard. It's hard to get your business out in front of people and getting them to like get
Right.
eyeballs on it. So things like identifying your blue ocean, things like identifying your ideal client, trying to figure out where your ideal client is hiding out online, how to do that research, how to incorporate what you do find in your research into your marketing, like incorporating all those different pieces so that you can expand and grow into your goals
Yeah,
and
I'm
grow that
thinking
business.
like maybe this is a differentiation point. So if you're making a decision, this will be helpful to you. I I think it's probably fair to say that this group, this community, this effort, just because it's coming out of the book and out of this, and out of, I'm pointing to Tegan's head now.
You can do it.
It'll be, we're talking about models, we're talking about strategy, we're talking about big picture. It's not as much like, here's how to go set up your Facebook page, where it's not as tactical. However, on Wednesdays, we're going to have interviews that will cover all kinds of territory. And so if you say that like the thing that you really want to know is like, how do I set up a Facebook group? So like one of the things that I did in Rockport when I practiced after the hurricane was I created a
Mm.
small business group for people in Rockport, Fulton area, and that was a marketing tactic for me because I was the host of the group, and so we got a bunch of people in there, and all these people saw me as the go-to resource, and then they were like, "Oh shoot, you're an attorney." So as a marketing tactic, there were a lot of things that I learned about to make that work, about how you create the group and how you optimize. This is just an example. I'm not saying this is what we're going to teach all the time, but the point is we can still get into tactics, but the differentiation, the thing that makes this group different than other groups is we're not tactic obsessed, right? Like
Right.
we actually want you to redesign your life. We want you to redesign your business, and your business and your life do this. And we recognize that, and we want you to actually be happy and productive and deliver access to justice, which I don't mean, you guys know when I use that phrase, I don't mean necessarily serving people who don't have money. That's the way that phrase is often used. But I'm talking about access to justice in all its senses. Like, you guys went to law school for a reason. You had something that you were after, and we are trying to help optimize your business structure so that you can actually do the thing that you went to law school for. So yeah, those three different kinds of trainings, I think, for me, you're going to get big picture. From Teagan, you're going to get big picture applied, and from those Wednesday sessions, you'll get, from talking about mental health to talking about Facebook groups. Yeah, is that fair?
Right. Yeah. And then in the mix, we'll probably throw in, some random Q&A sessions where we hop on and we let you just ask whatever's on your mind, whatever you're stuck on, what you need help working through. We can answer
Right.
those questions. The other thing we've talked about having is happy
Courses.
hours. Just
Yeah. Yeah.
come
Well,
hang
yeah.
out with us.
Yeah, I
Like,
was going to say, like, there will be the social aspect. I mean, the cool thing about
yeah.
using Mighty Networks is you can do this social aspect like it's a social group, because it is,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
also a learning management platform. So you can,
Yeah.
like, if you guys tell us that what you want is a course on how to do Google AdWords, cool. We'll go.
Done.
That's
We'll
the nice
build
thing
it.
about a community is like, in this structure, is we'll just go make that thing happen. So tell us you super care about this thing. If there's enough interest in it, we'll go put resources behind it and create that. And there will be a place for it to live. If you're just lonely and you just want to hang out with some people on a Thursday, let's do it.
Let's hang
It's a
out.
social. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, that's a good point to mention is that we did talk about that there's going to be courses hosted on there. So one of the first things that's going to be in there is every session from the virtual conference last year is already hosted inside of the Mighty Networks, which is amazing. So you can access all of those trainings already. And then we're working on optimizing some of your previous trainings and turning them into courses. And then everything that we work on going forward, we're going to turn into an area where you can access it at any point in time. And how rad is that? Like, you're going to be able to access all those things. So
Mm-hmm.
that's about the community. So I guess our next talking point is talking about guided coaching. So let's dive into, we're talking about the 12-week year and we're running in sprints. So,
Yeah, I mean, and if just FYI, when you guys go to lawyerforward.com/ not a conference, there is a picture of this is a video of me complaining about something, as I do. And specifically, what I'm complaining about in this conversation is the reason that I shut down the live event in the first place, which was because I felt like people were showing up and then not changing, and that just drives me crazy. And so what we're trying to optimize for, again, we're online, so let's use the cool things about being online,
right.
including the fact that we can be with you for an extended period of time. It's not like show up, parachute in, innovate, and then go back to what you were doing before. We have the ability to stick with you, and so what we're doing is this guided coaching structure. And I've talked about this elsewhere. I talked about it on the podcast with the 90-Day Known Expert series. I'm a big fan of talking about horizons, and next week we'll really dig into what this means. But we tend to have really sort of stupid horizons in law. We tend to have today and a 10-year. And usually when you go through coaching programs, they'll have you sit down and they'll do that. Like I watched somebody, a lawyer, sit. We were sitting in this session, and somebody who was a well-meaning lawyer was trying to train us on how to make this 10-year plan. And there was this one gal who was there who owns her practice, and she like legit had a panic attack at the idea of a 10-year plan, because that's what 10-year plans do. If you come out with this like huge massive plan and then you're just supposed to wind it back, you're just like, holy crap, the list of stuff that I have to do and how much my identity is tied, it's just really hard. And so I don't like a 10-year horizon. I'm a fan of the distant mountain that Neil Gaiman talks about, which is just a broad vision, like a super large why. And then the thing that lawyers often do is that then we operate in the day. And that's a totally stupid way to operate, because we really overestimate what we can accomplish in a day. We cannot accomplish the amount in a day that we think that we can. And so we're in the churn, right? Which I talk about in the book, the capital C churn. We're just churning. We're not building assets. We don't have a longer term focus. I love the quarter for a way to say, this is long enough that I can do something big, but short enough that I'll actually do it. Right?
Mhm.
So it's not a year plan. It's not even a year plan broken down into quarters, right? We're not
No.
like unwinding annualized planning. We're saying this quarter, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to create a course. I'm going to create a new product. And I'm going to have employee handbooks, which my clients want me to create, and I've never been able to create them. I'm going to build that. I'm going to source that. Whatever it is, you're going to do something big in a quarter. The guided coaching aspect of this community is we're going to help you at the beginning of that process identify what's the big thing you want to do in this quarter. We're going to help you unwind that and say, okay, what are the steps? And during that process, during that 12 weeks, it ends up being a 12-week plan. During that 12 weeks, we're going to help you evaluate your progress and pivot, right? That's what's nice about a
Mhm.
quarter, is that it's long enough that you can say 4 weeks in, this, the way I thought this was going to go is not the way this is going. I need to re-evaluate my priorities and my resources and what I'm putting into this and how I get
Mhm.
to the end of this. So it's just constantly keeping you on track to that big thing, with the intention that at the end of this quarter that you're in, and this program is quarterly, it's every 13 weeks, we relaunch. We're going to do it again. At the end of this quarter, whatever else you learned, you might have learned how to, do some content marketing stuff. You might have learned how to do some corporate strategy stuff. You might have learned how to help with your mental health stuff. A lot of tactical things, inspirational things, the kind of stuff that we used to do at the live event. But no matter what, you're going to have a huge thing that you got done that moves the needle on your practice, that differentiates your business from other people's business. So that's the guided coaching. Anything to add to that?
I think the only thing that you wanted to touch on is where your involvement falls into it and where mine falls into it.
Yeah,
So,
and each other's, right? Like,
right.
one of the advantages about doing this in a community is that we can create cohorts. So the idea is that we'll have similar types, right?
Right.
So if we can get, if there's 100 people in there or whatever, and by the way, this will never get so large, like by design, this will never get so large that Teagan and I don't know you by name and know exactly what you're doing, because
What?
once
Yeah.
you do that, you're not a community anymore, right? Like by definition, a community is, we have mutual care for each other. We actually, it's not like a court, that's different. People overuse the term community so much and it drives me crazy. But anyway, on this point, the community writ large, we're going to be putting people into cohorts of people trying to do similar things. So if there are, out of 100, there are 15 people who are really trying to improve their marketing through content, for example. That's what they. Then we're going to gather those people together, just like we did small groups at the live event. We're going to say, okay, you guys pivot, or like ping off of each other, bounce ideas and share and encourage and inspire. So that's sort of the community accountability side. Then there's Teagan, who as a community director will know all of you, everything that you're going through. She'll be able to ping you throughout the week and say, hey, how are you doing? You want to hop on a call? Tell me, what's your mental health state, right? Like, how are you? Is this working? Is this helping you? What can we change? There's a very direct line of communication there. And then for
Mhm.
me, there's what's the right way to put this? There's like a healthy distance, I think I would put it, so that when I'm coming in and we're having a conversation, it's like, all right, let's get to the business, right? Like what are you? What show me your path? Show me your. It's sort of a critical support. I mean, this is the nature of a coach. If you read the book Peak by Anders Ericsson, this is how coaching and deliberate practice works. It's breaking things into chunks, hitting them over and over again, getting quick feedback, and for that feedback to be structured in a way to keep you moving towards a goal. So that's sort of the three layers is each other, Teagan, and me as an accountability structure to keep you moving. Yeah?
Yeah, I would agree. Okay, so then the final, I guess, piece of this not a conference is the actual kickoff conference part and what that'll be like since we are going to be 100% online this time instead of in person. So, what it's going to
Yeah.
be like in the live
I
versus not.
think I'll tell you guys intentions and reality. Um, Intention is that the kickoff event can look really similar to the live event, in the sense that we'll have TED style talks, we'll have small group workshops. All this stuff can be facilitated as a way to get you in and going. There are two realities to that. One is I don't know if I can get people to jump over to Mighty Networks and start engaging with each other there without a kickoff event, right? Like, I think it needs to look like an event that you're used to in order for you to make the mental leap of going over and trying something new. So it's really important to me that that thing exists because I think it's an enculturating, inspiring, get you moving kind of event, specifically because we are kicking off 12-week year type programs. We're teaching you, we're going to show you people who've done similar programs in the past, get your juices flowing, get you thinking, and get you moving. The other
Right.
reality is that putting a live event together is a pain in the butt, right? Like I did it for several years. It's really hard. You're putting a lot of pressure on a given day. I don't want to overstate that. To be honest with you, our focus is the guided coaching as a product. That is the main thing that we want you to get out of this, while recognizing that for you to engage with it the way that you're familiar with, you're going to need something that looks somewhat similar to a thing that you're used to. So I think in
Yep.
future quarters and future iterations of this, we'll have a rhythm where not everything is new. And so you're going to see more, probably in future iterations, you'll see more TED Talks. You'll see more courses. I mean, we'll be able to launch more courses. You'll see more of those small group sessions. We're not doing much this time around to incorporate sponsors. We could talk about that a little bit, but that's like another level of really hard work. Our main focus right now is like we think the best marketing for future iterations of this event, of this not a conference, of this community, is going to be you
Yeah.
getting something done, right? The
Yeah.
At the other end of the guided coaching. So our focus is pretty heavily on that guided coaching. We want to get you kicked off right. We think that's part of the guided coaching, but just be
Yeah.
aware that our main focus is not looking like the typical conference. Our main focus is you getting something done.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the whole purpose of the kickoff event was, like you said at the beginning, like get you excited about it, get you thinking about doing something, like getting that idea there. And then the sprint the next 12 weeks is actually doing the thing that you were super excited about during that kickoff period of time and us helping you do the steps that you need to do to get something amazing done in the 12-week period. And then, like you said, the sponsors at some point, yes, we'll probably have sponsors in there at some point, but they are not a huge focus like you normally see at a conference where there's like, a huge sponsor floor or they have tables all set up somewhere. They're going to play a lesser role in this because we're focused on you and helping you do something that moves the needle in your business versus them.
Let's this is going to seem esoteric to some people, but if you've been around the event for a while, you know this is a thing I think about a lot. Let's talk about sponsors for a second.
Okay,
Sponsors make a lot of things possible, right?
sure.
The legal education system is built around sponsorship because their economies of scale make it so they can put a lot of money into a thing that can
Mm-hmm.
then benefit you as the attendee, right? So most of the time
Right.
you go to a legal event and you're paying, near nothing for a CLE event because you're being inundated by offers to buy books and whatever. And that experience of the conference hall is like a thing. Like, I mean, I used to go to conferences just to skip them and walk around and talk to the vendors and to friends out in the hall, and it was all about, that social gathering. One of the main things that's broken about virtual events in legal is that experience of going out in the hall and talking to vendors and learning new things, because in an ideal world the vendors are actually helping you see things that you don't have time to screw around with all year. Like, you don't have time to be a tech evaluator 365 days a year.
Right.
Is a pain in the butt. And so you go to these events to sort of stay current, to stay abreast. We recognize that. Like, we know that. But
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, we are not going to recreate the vendor hall experience. You can't do it
No.
in virtual. It doesn't work. I don't think it ever worked with this community. And so, what we have always done, if you've ever been to the live event, you know this, what we have always done is we've turned to the vendors and said, you know what? If you want to hang out with us, you're going to teach, right? That is your function right now. The only reason we
Right.
want you here is so you can teach us something important and then just tell us what you do and then back the freak off, right? We had one year, I remember, we in the live event, we would always go across the street and we would all eat dinner together. And we had one year where a vendor from a company like left. They went out to dinner with some other vendors and like totally missed that dinner conversation. And then another year, a vendor, Joshua from Clio, showed up and he was at the dinner and he was hanging with people and he was talking about kids and cats and like Joshua got it. And when he described our event later, he said it's the weirdest vibe for a legal conference because it is like a family. It's a cliche, but it is. If
Yeah.
vendors are going to come to this thing, they're going to freaking help us. They're going to teach us. That's always been important to me. I don't think an us versus them thing is right with vendors, but I also think if we're going to give you the benefit of the doubt of treating you like an adult who's trying to help access to justice too, then you're going to do the same. You're going to treat us like adults
Right.
and talk to us as teachers. So we will incorporate sponsors, but we're not going to do that like sales pitchy
Vendor
go
hall.
out
Yeah.
in the hall. There's no way to make it not suck. And so much about conferences suck because people are trying to duplicate that.
Right. And I think the other thing, good point, of Joshua coming to your dinner, like the thing that we had talked about with sponsors is we're going to allow the sponsor to have, I guess, like a designated individual that gets to come into the community so that you can have that point of access, so that you can get to know a person from that company and have those conversations where you're talking about kids and cats and, hey, how are you doing? Oh, you live in New York? Cool. I'm visiting New York soon. What are the best places to go? Like, you can have that intimate conversation and get to know somebody on a personal level, so that when those conversations about their company come up or their product come up, that it's less like hard hitting and sales pitchy feeling. It's
Right.
more just two friends talking about a
Yeah, and I
product.
know people in this audience rely on me to be the bridge to those companies who are trying to deal with access to justice in different ways, and
Right.
more technology and system and process and services ways. So like we will end up, I mean, I can tell you already, our old friends Clio and GNGF and Smith and others, we've already talked to them, and
Yeah.
they all want to be involved. They all want to help you guys, and we'll figure out smart ways to do that. But I'm just assuring you guys, we're not going to do that vendor hall experience. We didn't even
We don't
like
have that
we
yucky.
tried to do that one year in the live event. And it was a total mess. It like nobody skips our sessions, and so they don't go out in the hall and like. So it's funny, even in the live event it didn't work. All right, at the risk of belaboring this conversation, let's get to the point where we're like actually telling them where to go to
Okay.
sign up for this thing. I can't remember what else I put on that outline of us talking to each
Well,
other.
you wanted to talk a little bit about who's it for, where we need help in the actual community itself, and then how to apply to be a part of the first cohort.
Right. So very briefly, who's it
Yes,
for is not. It's not for everybody. And
it's true.
I know that that's again a cliche, but I say that to say if you're at the point where you're really in the, like, there's a phase of practice where you're just trying to get cash flow. You'll take any work. You're just trying to make money. You're trying to get to the point that you can then have lofty opinions. If you're at a phase in your practice where you don't make enough revenue for you to live a high quality life, then stop talking about anything else and just go get revenue. Like, and then you can start to jimmy with it. If you're not making a living wage right now, your job is to figure out how to make revenue. And I've been there. Like, I've been there with this business that I have now. You're just out. You just have to go create some work. I don't care if you're taking court appointed work. I don't care if you're, taking projects on law clerk, whatever it is, you got to get to the point where you are like, it's your testing ground for things you want to try. You learn what you hate, you learn what you like. You probably went to law school because somebody told you when you were 10 that you'd be a good lawyer when you grew up. The truth is that person just thought you were an asshole and didn't know how to tell a child that they're an asshole, so they told you you'd be a good lawyer. You can't make decisions based on who you were when you were 10 years old. You probably hit this practice and you're like, what the freak am I doing? Go play, right? Like, just get revenue, go
Figure
get
it
work.
out.
So if you're at that very early point, this thing is not for you. Keep engaging with the free stuff that we do. The podcast will still be coming out, which will be iterations of some of the stuff that will be in the community. We'll still be
Hmm.
talking in this group. We've got Teagan here. We've also got new friend Shannon, who will be involved in trying to take the teaching that we're giving and putting it out to the world in a free way. We want you to engage with that. That's the teaching is, you guys know me, it is out there. If you're in that phase, no pressure, stay in that phase, get the revenue. Let's talk again later. If you are at the point where you have, let's make a totally fake, depending on how many people you have, somewhere between 100 and 250K in revenue. Revenue is not, we don't like, I know that there are coaching type programs that'll say, based on your revenue, you're in this bucket versus this bucket. That's not what I'm trying to do. What I am trying to say, you need a minimum revenue before you start really thinking, how am I reshaping the business model? Before that, you're just like, business model on the back of a napkin is more than sufficient. Go deliver some
Yeah.
services, right? Anyway,
Right.
if you're at that next point, that you're like, I've got some revenue, but this is pretty broken, right? Like, I'm doing okay, but I'm not doing okay. That's this, right? That's where
Yeah.
we are at a minimum. You might even be at the point where you have like 7 employees and you're like, what the freak? Like, I'm at $1 million a year and I don't, and I'm so tired because I'm still in the churn. I'm doing well. I'm making money, but I'm still in the churn. That's a business model problem. That's a structure problem. That's a strategy problem. That's not a, are you working hard enough? That's not a, do I know how to make money? That's not the issue. So if you're at those places, this is
This is for you.
worth checking out, and we'll do big
Yeah.
things to move you along in an asset driven way to get you out of the churn. Bottom line, if you want to get out of the churn, this is meant for you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree for sure. Um, I guess where we need help. So first and foremost, the community more than anything. Like, we need people that are willing to show up and engage and be there with us and help us carry the conversation forward and help lend like that pinging off of each other. We need that community. Like, we
Yeah,
need those people.
I'm pretty purposefully against the economic inefficiency of user-generated content, which is so nerdy. If you've read the book "Who Owns the Future" by Jaron Lanier, if you haven't read that, it's really interesting. But that we've got a problem in the American economy where the people who are creating the value, you and me on Twitter, are not the people
Mm,
extracting any of the value. It's a problem. I am not trying to create a community where I'm like, you guys go in there and teach each other, and then, like, to
no.
me that's just crappy. That's just disrespectful, because you're saying to people, I'm never going to show up there. I'm Mike. I'm like the puppet master, and I'm going to hide, and you guys go teach each other, and you're the product, and I'm going to charge you for that. I'm not a fan of that. That's not what we're doing. Explicitly
No.
not what we're doing. However, community matters for accountability, right?
Yeah.
Community matters for support. Again, when we use the word community, it's not like people hanging out who have common interests. That we're talking about common interests in the sense that we are tied to each other. We give a crap about each other. We have common value systems. So community engagement is important for that sake of encouragement and accountability and movement. I do want you guys teaching each other in the sense that the best way to learn is to teach. So I do think it is a worthy exercise for you to say, here's my 12-week year program. I'm going to go do this thing. And then I'm going to come back to the group and download to the group my experience. I think that's worthwhile, not for the education, not because we don't want to teach, but because like that will teach you. That will change you. That will get you to do those retrospectives that will make the next iteration better. So be in the community, again, not because we're just extracting value from you, but because being in the community is a value itself. Yeah?
Yeah, I would agree. And I think the other amazing point too is somebody might have a totally different like outsider view, and being in that community and sharing, like I cannot even tell you how many times in my business, like I have a couple networks that I'm in myself. I come in and I'm so close to the idea that I don't see the flaws, and I don't see maybe a huge giant door standing in front of me. And when I present it to somebody and I'm like, okay, here's this thing, tell me what I'm missing, tell me where I went wrong. Like an outsider point of view can easily say, well, here's all the things that I would change.
Yeah.
Or did you even think about this thing that's right here?
Well,
Having that community around you is amazing.
and on that point, like I keep, just because of our history, using the word your
Yeah,
practice or whatever, there will be people who do not have their own law firm in this group. The
right.
the the purpose of like the identifier in this community is not going to necessarily be do you have a practice, don't you have a practice. Really, the thing that I'm concerned about that the book is written to is I'm thinking about solos in a pretty expansive way. Do you have control over your decision making? There will even be some employees of companies in this group, but they
Yeah,
have enough decision making power that they can go optimize a department. They can make decisions, right? So there will even be
right.
employees in this, but we want people who are solos who care about the delivery of justice, right? So in a way that we can control. So the way I talk about it in the book is people who purposely preserve society, right? Humanity. We
Yeah,
define and
yeah,
preserve humanity, which is I know that's a lofty and a big bucket, but that allows this group to have people with very different perspectives. And you need that, right? Shane Snow's
absolutely.
book, Dream Teams, he talks about the difference between different perspectives and different heuristics being like the way you think, the way you process things. You'll have a lot of
Yeah,
people in here who think like lawyers, but you'll have people in here who think like engineers. You'll have people in here who think like logisticians, right? That's why my book works, is because I came from a different way of thinking. Those kinds of perspectives will make your project stronger. So yeah, all different types.
right. It's super helpful to have all those all those inputs around you. So I would highly encourage you that you take advantage of it. And whether it's you come in to get advice, whether you do virtual coffee dates with somebody, run that up by them, like whatever it might be, I would take advantage of it. It was me for
Yeah,
sure.
and the only other thing I think we were talking about with, which we mentioned a little bit, is if, for help from you guys, is if you want to teach, like if you want an opportunity,
Yeah,
a place to share. I think one of the things that we would love to see out of this is that each of you becomes a teacher in your community, like your space, right?
right,
That what we call content marketing, which is really just you building authority and expertise through the way you share. This is your testing ground. You can do it in here without getting in trouble.
right,
You can share in our community without getting disbarred, right? Without, somebody saying, "Oh, a lawyer can't talk about that" or whatever. We'll be able
right,
to talk about these things in this group and as a testing ground. So there will be opportunities to teach. Again, no pressure with that, but opportunities if you guys want to do that.
right.
Um, and we are going longer than I wanted to, so I want to just push people to where to go to sign up, a little bit of
Okay.
details on that. Did you have anything else to share with that before we do that?
I think that covers most of our outline. I think the last thing we want to talk about was how to apply to be a part of the cohort and how to join the community and join us
Perfect.
and have fun with us. So,
With the caveat that, again, in general, we need to keep this small. It's not a community if you get too big, particularly
Yes.
with this iteration, we're going to keep it pretty darn small. So we're not taking everybody who wants to sign up. We'll show you where to sign up, but just understand that it's probably better for you to reach out to me or to Teagan, Mike at Lawyer Forward, Teagan at Lawyer Forward, and just talk to us. And we can we can have a conversation about where are you in your practice. Are you at a brain space point? Are you at a revenue point? Are you at an innovation point? Like, I'm not kidding. You might well say, I think I'm ready to join this. And I might well say, I think you need to read the book first, right? And just get your framework right. With that
Right.
caveat that we're going to keep it pretty small, let me show you guys where you can go. If you go to just lawyerforward.com/not a conference, it will redirect
Correct.
to this page, which is it's a sales page. This is a YouTube video that breaks down what we're doing, and it just talks about some of the stuff that we've talked about: the community aspect, the guided coaching, the kickoff event, what's included. I paid Kim big bucks to say that we're awesome. I didn't really.
Bribed her.
We're gonna be like we talked about. We'll have experts in here. We're still gonna have Mike and Angela's awesome mix because it's super important. It's like the most important part of our events. We're gonna send you some books. My intention is to, at minimum, send everybody a copy of Lawyer Forward and also a journal that sort of guides people through the 12-week year type program that we're doing. But also, I'm
Mhm.
hoping that we can curate that a little bit and know enough about you to say, all right, let's give some personalized recommendations and send people some things. But we want to send you some goodies and some love because I think that's the swag experience is sort of important. And then just a place that you can ask questions there, which I think is important. So definitely do not feel weird about reaching out, but just go to lawyerforward.com/not a conference, and it will be there. Okay, cool. Anything else?
Not that I can think of. I think that covers most of everything that we want to talk to. I guess if you have any questions or you want more information, like Mike said, you can email either one of us and we can sit down and have a chat answering any of those things for you and kind of move through it. I guess the only other thing that we need to mention is the first kickoff event is happening in June, on
That's
June
right.
24th. So that if you're going to be a part of the not a conference community guided coaching, you need to jump on board before June 24th.
Yeah, and we are definitely we're already kicking off the Friday trainings and the Wednesday interviews. I've got a couple coming up that have to do with adult learning and mental health and creating systems for that.
Yeah.
So we've got an interview with David Baker. We've got one with Nika Kabiri. We'll have others that can teach you stuff about handling the mental side of your work that I think
Yeah.
is not a nice to have. I think that's hugely important. So
Mhm.
that stuff will be there already. So as soon as you sign up, that stuff will be there. So yeah, I think that's it. Again, email me or Teagan at lawyerforward.com. Go to lawyerforward.com/not a conference. You can find us on social media. You can ask questions in the Lawyer Forward Facebook group, wherever you want to be. We
Yeah.
will answer those questions. We're pretty pumped to get this thing going. So thanks, Teagan, for hosting this, and we will see you guys again in a week.
Yeah. We'll talk soon.
Have a good one, guys.